Oh man, I haven't heard that eagle in so long. It's like bringing back old memories, like a childhood summer.
It's like the good old days of the 1940s.
Right. And I know most people thought that like something happened internally at Keeping It 1492. Like there were rumors going around that there was some form of harassment at our podcast, but that wasn't going on. That's all just hearsay.
Well, you did harass our intern for the first 4 shows.
Pod Kai was just horrible. He wasn't doing his job, so he needed to be touched.
Pod Kai was asking for it, let's be honest.
Right. And it's my word against his,
Just the way he came here dressed as a S&M bimbo, he was asking for it.
Like a sexy dragon master with those short shorts and that long sword of his.
The leather mask with the zipper.
Hey, so this is Keeping It 1492, not Sex Talk 1492, which would be very interesting.
No, that would involve a lot of paddles, crosses, and whatever they had in 1492.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, we our hiatus was just a little teaser to keep you interested. Unlike America's national bird, we are not endangered. We are very much least concerned.
Mm-hmm. I heard on the radio today, I listened to the Brother We show when I go in, and he was talking about how everyone has a podcast. And I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, pretty much everyone does have a podcast.
As they should.
So where do we stand?
We're still in the top 10 if you search Keeping It.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the top 10.
That's good.
I think we were 6. But you have to search Keeping It. If you just search 1492 or stuff like that, we're not as high.
That's probably looking for, the numbers.
It's the anti-Columbus crew is just trying to delete everything related to 1492. Mm-hmm. It's very anti-Italian, which I'm kind of on board with, but I don't condone it wholeheartedly.
What's funny is about 1492 how a few weeks ago it was Columbus Day, and like the new
our last podcast was posted on Columbus Day. I distinctly remember that.
But we somehow didn't touch or talk about Columbus Day and how
the Big C,
right, and how it's just bullshit. And it was funny though because you're you think you live in a pretty liberal area with college educated people, but then you see these people posting on local news stations why do we need to change Columbus Day? Why is everyone getting all butthurt about it? And it's well, Columbus Day is not actually what it means or what it represents.
Well, Josh, I'm glad you bring that up because I know I don't know if you consider yourself Italian or if you're one of those people who are I am strictly Sicilian.
I'm Sicilian.
Okay, good.
No.
Definitely a whole.
I thought you were
thing.
American.
American first.
American Sicilian hyphen. But I was at a fancy orthodontist once when I was contemplating various dental work in my teen years, and this dentist had a very Italian sounding last name. And he had the Italian American News as one of his newspapers. And the front page was Columbus Day in Danger or something like that. So it really is these Italian Americans that are Columbus is our hero. We got to keep Columbus Day going.
And they choose to ignore the history of it.
And Columbus never set foot in North America. He came to
he got to the coast of
West Indies,
Panama and Mexico on his 4th voyage.
Yeah, and it was
so
first
technically
voyage was
he got
the Caribbean, not Puerto Rico, maybe
no, he got
Dominican
Puerto Rico
Republic or
he
Puerto
he
Rico.
hit he hit a lot of the islands. No, I read an interesting story around that time, a few weeks ago, about how most countries that Columbus actually discovered in a way for Europeans don't celebrate anything to do with him, but how Columbus Day has taken on this idolized thing in America, where like we celebrate a man who closely guy was like South Mexico. Well, and we celebrate it like for some reason he's become an American hero.
You know
even
that
though he's had nothing to do with the founding of North America.
We can thank, I believe, Washington Irving for that.
Yeah, the same guy who wrote about Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman in Sleepy Hollow, New York.
That's a good movie with G. Depp.
It's totally historically true, just like his stories about Columbus.
Right. He wrote this biography on Christopher Columbus and spiced it up a little bit with some fabrications to sell more books.
Loosely based on truth or total made up stuff? Because I mean, it was 1492. We don't know what actually happened. You can say anything, and they can't.
It would be
prove
like
you
the
wrong.
Hollywood movies of its time. So it was pretty much like, oh, this rape and murder doesn't sound as great as discovering of America and befriending lots of indigenous people.
You know that Columbus is actually buried in the Caribbean, and he has a tomb that fucking looks like a pyramid. Like, I'm not kidding. Like,
How is he?
Which one? No, because I actually, ironically, on Amazon right now they have 1492, which was made in 1992 by Ridley Scott to commemorate the 500th year of Columbus hitting Central America, and it's Gerard Depardieu as Columbus.
Get out of here!
No, dead serious.
Name.
And he has his French accent as Columbus, who was Italian but sailed for Spain. And it's like 2.5 hours long. I actually watched this.
Was he a fat drunk then too?
Yes. And I watched the course of 2 nights because it's long, and I'm old and go to bed at 11:30 now. And it's so fanatical because it paints Columbus as this guy who, we have to treat the Indians equal. We don't touch their women. He comes over
unless you want them to bring you gold, in which you ride on them and then cut their hands off if they don't bring you enough gold.
I was getting there. It's like it paints him like this, and it gets into the layers where he wasn't recognized by Spain for finding America because they credit another person. That whole thing's separate. But it fails to mention that he started I'm going to murder this word, encomienda, like the slave system. Like Columbus established that here.
Encomienda.
Yeah, thank you.
Encomienda system.
Thank you, word check.
Which is also my new Latin rap group.
Yep, and he also...
I like it.
He literally is the one that started the transatlantic slave trade. So it's like the movie fails to mention all that stuff. It just shows Columbus as like this awesome founder of America who Spain exiled. Because in 1500 they removed him from his position of governor of the New World. And like so they show like he's like this down in the... Like just
down
really
in the dumps.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot my word. So he's like this down the dumps guy towards the end, and then like he goes to Spain. They recognize someone else with first finding America, and then at the end, his son starts taking notes about his life.
Oh.
And it's like over their shoulder shot of the sea as it fades away. And at the end, Ridley Scott, goes to black screen, a little recap, and it's like,
and then there's
Columbus's son's book about his father is a big reason why Columbus' reputation got restored with founding of the Americas, this, and this. So Ridley Scott is not a very undercover Columbus lover.
Well, wasn't Columbus confined to a bed towards the end of his life and like suffering from like
they all had gout back then.
That sounds like everybody before like 1900.
Right.
Hey,
you can go around and fuck whoever you want with no repercussions.
Because they actually point out like
besides a little itchiness and burning.
Like as soon as Columbus had like no control, he was a terrible manager. He actually got sick for a time, and that's whenever Columbus got sicker and went away. That's when all the sailors just like went crazy, and that's when they did all the rape and murder.
He promised the first person on the ships that spotted land would like get this like huge bonus, and then like the guy that actually spotted land, he was like, "There it is." Columbus was just like, "No, I saw it first." Like he literally did that. It's like, you don't get any money.
Where's my bonus?
A little funny tidbit about Columbus's family. Before Columbus sailed, they signed an agreement that was common back then for like how much like land you may get or like what payments you might receive. So Spain refused to pay Columbus's heirs. Like, they promised Columbus like 10% of all monies got from the land. Very undercover there. And
Like
Columbus's family sued. Columbus died in 1504, I believe. They sued the Spain all the way up until 1536 when they finally got money.
So Spain gave him money. What did...
Spain promised Columbus 10% of all income from the New World.
Because they just brought Spain as much gold.
When they removed him as governor of 1500, they said because he was removed from an official position, he didn't have any claim to that deal he originally signed.
Didn't they not find any gold, though?
They've still found a pretty significant amount, just not the amount they thought.
They expected to find like cities of gold. Remember the movie El Dorado from our childhood? Yeah. They expected like to find a city of pure gold and
what
illusions.
happened was he went to one town, like a indigenous town, and they presented him with like just shit made out of gold, like a mask made out of gold. And to them, it wasn't like gold. It was just like, hey, look at this cool shiny thing.
And right. in the movie 1492, he presents that to Queen Isabella as a gift.
And what they didn't know is that most of the gold they got was just sifted out of the rivers, just these little slivers at a time.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a cool thing, though. Somehow this episode's turning into Columbus, which is okay. But they're like how I forgot which explorer like landed where like the
Jacques Cousteau.
Was it where like the Mayans are? And like
that's Cortez.
Saw, like, basically everything was made out of gold, and he like was like, all right, wait, stay here. Don't do anything.
Well, they also
he leaves, he comes back, and everything's fucking gone.
Well, the same thing.
People are nowhere to
Columbus.
be seen.
They thought Cortez was also a god.
Like, Cortez was
the killer?
Cortez was in the right place at the right time.
Because was Cortez the Quetzalcoatl guy?
Yeah, because it's really weird. It's really weird because the Aztecs.
I'm sorry.
The Aztecs had this myth that like 100 years or a few hundred years before Cortez got there, there's this myth of this like
lizard creature.
Yeah, it's like this white man came and was like a god or something and said like, I will return. And so then Cortez comes and they're just like, oh shit, he's back. And Montezuma actually tried to just like bribe Cortez and just be like, can you just leave?
Yeah, to be fair,
it'd be really good if you just left and here's a bunch of cool shit. Like just
Montezuma pretty much handed over the kingdom.
Yeah, Montezuma and the warfare was just totally different. Like the Aztecs.
Yeah, spears versus gunpowder.
Yeah, but they were more of like a showy type of warfare, whereas the Spanish just had fucking mastiffs that were just like, all right, here's our super big dogs to go and like maul your throat. And
I saw El Dorado.
I didn't see El Dorado. What is is it a Disney movie?
It's like Pocahontas, like but with Mayans.
And also, the Aztecs just recently like took power over that region before Cortez got there. So Cortez was able to ally himself with all these Indian groups that fucking hated the Aztecs. And that was a big part of
Sounds
how
like
they could take over.
Fuck those pussy Aztecs.
Oh, one last tip about Columbus. You know his goal was to find a faster route to India?
Yeah.
On his last voyage, he did, the Panama Canal that we built?
Yeah.
He did end up getting to that little part of Panama. So he did actually find the Pacific at the very end. Obviously, there wasn't the Panama Canal then, so there was still land in between it.
Yeah.
But he did technically find a way to Asia. I don't think it was quicker because at that point he would have sailed all the way down around South America. Mm-hmm. But he did find the Pacific eventually. Still wasn't India.
All right, so we can all agree that Columbus put in a lot of effort, but a lot of wasted effort,
He was just a dick. But right. I mean, I think all Europeans were dicks.
But I couldn't find anything about Columbus being grabby handsy though.
Oh, so yeah, no, I was gonna say
segue.
I was gonna say Columbus did things without any repercussions. You know what I mean? But so we've had a lot of stuff going on. I don't know what our viewers are 7 or 8 viewers a week.
Listeners.
Listeners.
No one's viewing this show.
No, I'm sure they're kind of picturing what we look like in our sexy voices.
I hope
we got. You don't have tape over your webcam, do you?
I do.
Oh, you do. So yeah, we don't have any.
I don't want the Russians watching this.
Mm-hmm.
I should take out my phone so the Russians can watch it.
I would. You know what? I would like to the Russians to push our podcast. So hey, if you want to throw some money into us, we'll push your agenda.
Or we could just try to get really big in North Korea.
That too, right? We're for all listeners.
Kim Jong-un is treated unfairly by the fake news.
He is, and he has great hair. But hey, so there was
hands.
and big hands.
He's probably been pretty grabby handsy.
Right. There was a lot going on this week. I mean, with Mueller's investigation, which was huge. Hopefully, the dominoes are starting to fall into Trump's direction,
Wait,
but we'll see.
Mueller? I thought it was Mulder.
Mulder, yeah.
It's German, right? Mueller, isn't it? Mueller.
I said
Thomas
Mueller, and I got yelled at. So
it's not Ferris
It's
Bueller.
Mueller. But it's like Tahoes and Tahoos.
Didn't
you know what I mean?
I enjoyed that the one guy got charged with it wasn't treason. What was it against the U.S.? He got charged with something.
Wasn't it like conspiracy?
Conspiracy against the U.S. Like, so that's not treason or anything.
Those are pretty serious crimes. And I mean, like, the one dude's bail was said.
Yeah, one's treason without calling it treason.
What was the top dog? What was it?
Wasn't it Manafort? Manafort?
Yeah.
His bail was set at $10 million. The other guy was.
But are they really going to go to like hard jails?
No. Well,
I mean,
they're literally going to ask him what was the reason behind this and who was influencing you. And you know what? They'll be more than happy to talk because none of them. And like even them going to prison is not like a typical prison. It's like a fucking
like our boys getting
prison.
nailed with a dime bag.
They'll probably build their own prison.
Worst jail time.
Like the Colombians did in the 90s. If you watch Narcos, they built their own jail. Like, remember Escobar built his own prison?
Well, look at like the Watergate people got to like play golf and write books while they were in jail and make a lot of money.
Right. That's pretty much like they have so much freedom. They can do pretty much everything. It's
Martha
like
Stewart, Camp Cupcake was the name of her jail.
Was it really?
Something like
Well,
that.
yeah, it was made of cupcakes. It was a wonderful place.
It was run by that witch that tried to eat Hansel and Gretel.
So I guess like we text each other every week, and outside of the dick pics, we talk about what we're gonna
in our Japanese porn.
Yeah, our Japanese.
That's a separate one.
We talk about what we're gonna do every week. So there's a lot going on, and if anyone wants to post on our Facebook for us to talk about all the indictments that are going down, but I think this episode would be great if we kind of looked at like sexual harassment, all that stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
So we call it a sexy sexual harassment episode.
Without grabby hands. I thought we were calling this grabby hands. So Kyle had a great text where he just said, "Can we talk about the grabby hands?" Or it was like, "There's lots of grabby hands going
Hey,
on."
everybody, you want to talk about those grabby hands, the celebs, the politicians? Oh, they're getting so accused of all this sexual harassment and rape.
Oh, you went dirty.
Well, it all started with a few weeks ago with Harvey Weinstein, and most of us, I think a lot of people have heard about the background of Hollywood, how it's kind of a seedy place, that there's a lot of stuff going on, and
Kids are passed around like currency.
Right. That was the whole thing. Like, they're supposed to...
Well, I know you've been really into this for a while, so I'm sure you must be thrilled, not like in a good way, that this is being brought out. You've been like reading about this for a very long time.
It's bigger than Pizzagate.
It is. Well, I'm a big fan of movies. So the thing is, I honestly believe it's the start of something that's going to destroy careers. As you see, like, even, one claim can really ruin, like, now, like, studios are not willing to take any chances. And, like, for instance, we can go back on Harvey Weinstein, but with Kevin Spacey, there was one claim brought against him, and literally things just started getting taken away. House of Cards, which is now completely done, was postponed. But to me, that leads me to believe that they knew stuff was going on, and they're just like, there's no, like, we'll just take the risk. It's like an insurance company saying, we know our steering wheels are faulty, so let me just, bite the bullet and we'll pay for it and take care of it.
Right,
whatever.
they'd rather,
they'd rather
pay off the lawsuits than than just
because if you continue
when you're talking about tens of millions and potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in profits, a lot gets swept under the rug or swallowed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or you pay people to make it go away. Very hush hush like.
Well, and it goes to show that power is huge. You know, it's still a big thing, and people kind of bite the bullet. Things happen to them, and like they want to, in Hollywood, you want to advance your career, so you're not really going to speak out. But now it's like, the whole thing, it's almost like the Red Scare. Like everyone's fucking speaking out about shit.
It's definitely been like a watershed. Like we started with like Trump, Cosby, and now it's just building and building. And I could see how, like there's this side of this that is kind of victim blaming more and more as they always have, but it's like they're reacting to just the volume of it, and they think like, no way there could be this big, like it can't be this many cases going on, but it's totally believable. It's just gone unsaid because you have like this old boys club, like the 1950s way of doing things has taken forever to die.
Oh, did you? I don't know if you saw it made the rounds when Dave Chappelle's Inside the Actors Studio from like 2004 started getting around. Like it started getting reposted after the Weinstein thing, where he talked about, we're talking 13 years ago, right? It was after Chappelle's show ended, he went to Africa and got back. I don't know, was that 04, 05 general time frame?
Probably, yeah.
And he was talking about like how to make in Hollywood you have to be a very strong person, like the sacrifice and what you have to do to like get famous to be on that stage. Like none of those are weak people. And he talked about how Martin Lawrence, went crazy and ran through the street and like passed out and almost died and got arrested in this thing. It's like there's something really wrong with Hollywood. He's like, there's something really sick here that's turning these very strong people into these types of people. And it started getting reposted at that, like, Dave Chappelle was right. Like, well, I'm like, Hollywood's been like this for a very long time. It's just now you're reposting a Chappelle interview from 12 years ago about him saying how bad this was bad back then.
It used to be like the heads of studios, because I think there was like 5 big studios back in the day. Like there was one guy who, if you actually like Google, I think Louis B. Mayer was known for like being sexually aggressive.
Like the last name of Mayor Goldwyn?
Well, MGM
like
Studios. One? MGM.
Oh, MGM?
Yeah, so like he supposedly like raped Judy Garland and stuff, and you see like Judy Garland had a horrible drinking problem, had a drug problem. She was also given like pills to like stunt her growth, and a lot of like fucked up things happen. But you can see what happens to like, there are certain individuals, you can see what assault does to them, because when you're a child and you're getting assaulted, it's gonna go into your adult life, and you see these people that like. Why I was so interested in it, like the whole Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman is such a fucking odd character, but I think a lot of it stems from the abuse that happened to him. Like he's been talking about like pedophilia in Hollywood, which is talking about pedophiles in general is scary, and like nobody really wants to think that's going on in this world.
It seems
there's
like,
a big stigma about it.
It was the joke, not really a joke. What I brought up, like. I mean, you can find what you want to find at your own leisure, but if young kids in Hollywood are really... Seems like if all the stories are true, which I have no doubt that most are, kids they're literally passed around like currency. Like they, whether it's, little girls, boys, and whatever people, like big higher-ups in films' predilections are, these kids are eaten up.
It seems for some reason to be more of little boys.
I know, but it still, obviously happens to both, and it's just...
Right.
It's obviously, I don't know how long it's been going on. Could be from the start of Hollywood in general, but it's like this is nothing new. This has been going on since it started.
And that's what I think people need to grasp is that, look, it's not like people are in the wrong for being too offended by things. It's that we're finally noticing how fucked up shit has been. And trying to live up to the standards that we proclaim to believe in.
I mean, it's for years Hollywood's lived by its own set of rules. It's like they have a different code and they're above the law, and it's it's its own little world that's in this little isolated block where because of a name they can do what they want, and cops don't. No one ever calls anyone, or cops don't come. Well,
that's definitely what fame gets you. You have a lot of leeway, but I know, Tom, you and I are big movie fans. I know, Kyle, you like movies as well. We've had a movie podcast here. And to me, the worst thing is, like, because there's certain, like, directors and, like, actors I really, like, I just appreciate, have this, like, enduring, like, you know, just love for. And if
Are you scared they're going to get named?
I don't think anyone who I really, like, for instance, like, one of my favorite directors is Martin Scorsese. One of my favorite actors is Robert De Niro. But I think De Niro is level-headed enough. Scorsese is level-headed enough. But there's a lot of shadiness. Like, so I was actually Googling, and there's this whole thing. Like, I don't know if we can get in trouble for talking about this on podcasts, but they're naming, like, names of, like, big directors. One is the director of Jaws, director of E.T., is supposed to be one of the heads of these underground rings.
Hey, as long as you don't play the Matlock theme song again, I think we'll be okay.
Right. Allegedly.
Well, yeah, I know. Like, I don't know how much credence you give. You know, like, they talked about Chester Bennington possibly, like, if it was murdered because of, you know, he was working with, who's his best friend that died the year before?
Chris Cornell.
Like, they were both working on that because they were both abused as children, correct? I think Chester was for sure. And, like, there was talk that, like, Chester was gotten rid of because he was working towards exposing that ring, that shadow ring that people talk about that exists, but no one ever actually comes out and says exists.
There's actually another funny thing is, like,
because Nicole Kidman's wanted to come out about it, and she's been told, like, Stanley Kubrick before he died, when he was doing Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman,
yeah,
Stanley Kubrick was, I don't know how big a fan you are of him as a director.
Love Kubrick.
He was, we're talking 80s, 90s. He was on, like, he knew this was going, like, he wanted to expose it. You know, he was very aware of this. And Nicole Kidman, and they were, like, him, Tom Cruise, and Nicole Kidman were all very good friends. And he wanted to come about it because they know about it. And Nicole Kidman had come out recently and said that she was told to be quiet about it by Stanley Kubrick for fear of her life.
Well, there's another thing.
And that's one of the things he wanted to do before he died was, like, expose this very, very dark side to Hollywood.
Well, and I'm glad it's starting now, because it better late than never, as the saying goes. But yeah, there's this thing supposedly called the gay mafia, and I'm not even joking. So I know it sounds funny because a lot of people, there's this old skit around.
Not if it's true.
No, go on, because I was about to say something kind of.
Robin Williams I'll start with this. Robin Williams used to do this skit. They're like, "You ever hear of the gay mafia?" And I always thought it was just a joke, but he's like, "Does this pistol make my hips look big?" But the gay mafia supposedly is at the head of, like, leading the charge of this whole child pedophilia ring. And mind you, it's expansive. It's going outside of Hollywood. We're talking about politics. So there are big names that have been dropped in politics. There's this one documentary I saw on Netflix, actually, which was also very hard to watch. But so what happened was this kid got abducted. 12 years later, he shows up to his mom's house and knocks on the door. She opens it up and recognizes her son. Her son comes in with another young male. They sit down on the couch. She talks to him, asks him where he's been, and he explains this whole thing where he was abducted. Was brought to, like, the desert, like somewhere in Arizona, and he's been repeatedly, like, tortured, you know, raped, whatever. And he's like, there are people in positions of power. I cannot name names, you know, I'm just letting you know I'm okay. And if I say anything to you, you will be harmed. And literally just got up and left, you know. And it was like he stayed there for an hour and just left. But this documentary kind of, like, pointed in the directions of, like, you talk about politicians, you talk about senators, you talk about presidents, supposedly.
Yeah, I mean, think about the, you know, politicians, celebrities. They do drugs. Are they getting drugs from just, you know, the same dealers we would get drugs from? No, they're getting their drugs from the most top, powerful drug dealers, the most mafia-connected drug dealers, and the same would go with where they get prostitutes. They get prostitutes too. They have the money to spend on the most high end of that shit, so they're going to get the most powerfully controlled, the people who pay off the police, the people who are just so embedded, who pay off politicians. And So it shouldn't be that much of a surprise.
If you have the money, you can pretty much get whatever you want.
Okay, and to go back so I don't get misquoted, because I did, he was explaining to her before Dad that pedophiles run the world, and he wanted to make more films showing off how pedophiles like run things, control things, and that, because he was going deeper down the rabbit hole, that was a possible reason for his death. And the part where she started fearing for her life, or thinking bad things might happen to her, as if she would have commented more on how he died. Like saying like someone intentionally killed him. That's where she stopped
He
talking.
died relatively young.
Yeah, she said like he...
Only 7. I mean, he's 70, but he...
So...
Kubrick?
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick?
Yeah.
So it wasn't he wanted to like expose the pedophile ring specifically, but he wanted to expose pedophiles because they... In his own words, they were a big secret society that controls everything.
There's a scene in that movie... I think with Lily Sobieski, when she's actually maybe 14 at the time, where it's something that kind of alludes to that. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, he did a lot of truth in film. That was his thing.
Right.
So, like, especially a film like Eyes Wide Shut is, I think, at least for anyone, that's very blatant. If you know him or how his mind works, that's him tackling his take on pedophilia in Hollywood.
Well, I don't think it was
pedophilia. Like
it was more like because, and it's funny because Eyes Wide Shut is a movie that's grown on me the more I've seen it, and it is a lot of it. Yeah, it's got a lot of like this is going on. Don't say anything. If you say anything, you will get hurt. You will get harmed, because that's the whole movie. Like Tom Cruise is like the right one. Like he's done some bad things, but he wants to almost expose what's going on. But he's being told to be quiet about it.
Yeah. I've only watched it a couple times, and it's on Netflix, and I probably should watch it again because I love me Tommy C.
It's like Kubrick was always very very sexual in his films, but it was I think it was proper. There wasn't anything like the only thing that was very disturbing to watch, I think, was Clockwork Orange. There's a rape scene in there.
I've never watched it.
Where he does Singing in the Rain, which is like it's the
penis statue and everything.
Right. But he's
the book was a Beethoven statue.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So that was something he took some liberty with. The book was still pretty raunchy in its own right, but
this mic catches everything.
I know. I could just mute your mic. It might be
cracking beers.
Behind the curtains,
beer.
I can mute mics whenever I want.
I'm getting ready for the Bills game.
I think we need to do more to confront this stuff because, I mean, right now we're very divided as, on all issues pretty much. It's either like all issues are in the right side or the left side, and they're just getting baggaged together when I think people are much more complex than that. And think about like the Russians with those Facebook ads. They're literally trying to use those ads to divide us even further.
Here's the thing, because I'm glad you brought that up. Assault, pedophilia should not be a partisan issue, right? But
it's
in Hollywood, what do you think of Hollywood? Most of the people look at it as a left, left thing. So it's going to be damning to that point of view. But I mean, this has been going on for,
I know Fox News is having a field day with this. When I'm at the gym, it's like every 3 minutes they're back to like Hollywood, pedophilia.
But what's interesting is that someone brought this up in a meme, which is our main form of communication for some reason. So all these women coming up, accusing Donald Trump, accusing men of sexual assault, and you name it. But then as soon as a man, a boy says, Kevin Spacey did this to me, then Kevin Spacey loses his show. It's immediately addressed. But when women bring this stuff up, they're victim blamed. So there's clearly like a sexist divide there where we're not addressing them equally.
Oh, have you seen?
I mean, pedophilia, like when it becomes children, that's I think children deserve more attention than but it all deserves attention, and we're not believing women as well as we should.
Well,
I was gonna say, not really necessarily victim blame, but Rose McGowan came out a few weeks ago with Weinstein,
the drugs.
And like 2 weeks later, magically, there's all you see is Rose McGowan and alleged being detained for drugs or being questioned by police. It's just timing wise, that wasn't necessarily victim blame. It's just how those two stories align. Like she comes out, and then there's like she's in the news for drugs 2 weeks later.
Chair moving, sponsored by Sherman Williams. Sherman Williams been moving chairs to paint walls since 1902.
My grandpa was a painter, and he knew Sherman Williams. True story.
No, they're so it's just the beginning, but there are people like, and there's names going down the list of people who have been accused. Jeremy Piven, Brett Ratner, who's a director. I mean,
fucking like H.W. Bush was grabbing some tail at something.
So, and here's the thing: like, they're instantly coming back with these people are just making it up. Why? What are they getting out of it to say you're a fucking victim?
Fame.
Well, I think us people on the left get labeled as like snowflakes. We're offended by everything. We need to stop. I mean, I'm not trying to say that like we're in the wrong, but I don't think we're doing enough, because we'll create a hashtag like Me Too, which I think is powerful. It has its meaning, but it's easily just one-sided. It's made fun of by the right. We need to call them out on a more personal level and just say something like, like, well, how would you feel if this was your like sister, mother, your daughter? Right. Like we need to get tougher on them, and we're just kind of being too tolerant of them, and we gotta really slam them. Like, are you really defending rape and sexual harassment right now? Because it seems like it.
Because I'm glad you talked about that, but there's also, it leads into the rape culture in college, and I think a lot of it stems from appropriate, like, for instance, I was brought up, and I know, Tom, you were brought up by, basically a single parent, a mom, and I had two older sisters. I believe I was taught right from wrong and how, to respect women, and to me, like, there's kind of like, I feel like this patriarchal kind of thing going on in this world where, and it's been going on, where men just kind of dominate, you know what I mean, and what they do is okay, and you need to speak up anytime you see any fucking assault, anytime something needs to be said. So I'm glad, even though where people are saying it's kind of right now it's everywhere, like there's accusations everywhere, to me that's okay, because you need it. You need to almost strike fear in these people to get them to fucking stop, or create some form of education, some understanding that it's not right. What you're doing is not right. Any unwanted touching. So yeah, sure, she could be a beautiful girl, but you need to treat her, with just as much respect as you're treating your friend. You don't go up to a girl you just, met and grab her ass or squeeze her boob. No, but I guarantee you some men think that's fine. I guarantee you go to a college party, you're probably witnessing that all the time, and girls are just accepting that. They're thinking it's the norm. I don't think nowadays, but you know what I mean?
I don't remember.
Some are just too afraid to speak up.
I think what I'm afraid of is that I felt like we were making a lot of upward progress, and now with this backlash, it's going back down.
Well, how the news works too. This could be out of the media's eye in 2 weeks, and it just dies out eventually.
I don't think so. I think it's only going to get worse, and it needs to be known. But it also, so you need to take this and you need to look at all figures in history who have been well-known fucking abusers. Like, wasn't Gandhi was known kind of being... He
was. That's Gandhi is very much idolized in the West, but if you go to India, Muslims fucking hate Gandhi because they don't think that he could have secured Muslims a better place in India, but instead he was very much like, no, we got to do like the two-state system. So that's why India, there's a minority of Muslims, and most of the Muslims moved to Pakistan and Bangladesh, and it was a very hard and and kind of violent thing. Still violence going on because of that.
Why is it? You know, there's something in our country that's very odd where people are very sexual, but like sexuality in general is something that's kind of hidden amongst, you know, like what people do in their private lives, they do in their private lives. But I think it's becoming more and more perverse because people don't understand what it truly means to be like a sexual being and like what's okay and what's not okay. And you look at going to movies. What is projected most in film is violence and
usually it's sex and violence together.
Right, but there's no like there hasn't been an appropriate way of actually depicting, you know, proper treatment of both.
Well, no one would want to go watch that movie.
I think there's also like that. You know, this is going off a little
I love
bit,
80s
but I think it's
boobs,
related.
by the way. You know,
Like
but
you said this multiple times.
You have
boobs in movies are okay if the woman is okay with it.
Coming soon, 80s movies part 2.
Which you brought up, you know.
The boobopedia of 80s
Oh no,
films
I
by
was
Josh.
on 80s music.
80s
Yeah,
boobs,
he did not say
I
80s boobs. He definitely said music.
boobs.
A lot of side boob going on, and but I think like a lot of kind of like geeky, nerdy guys even feel this entitlement, like, hey, like I'm a nice guy, like you should like me. And it's like, no, they don't need to. It's like you need to still respect women. It's not like you're friends with a girl and then all of a sudden you're entitled to that girl. Like they have to like you back, you know. And if you didn't do a good job.
I view
that.
I think we all kind of, you know, you look at a woman and like, yeah, she could be hot as hell, but to me, like the sexiest thing about a woman is her intelligence and her poise and her way to hold herself. You know what I mean? To me, like I see kind of girls who, and there's nothing wrong with them trying to be sexy, but girls who are trying to like be almost like, I look at like the Kardashians just being the filth of America because they're projecting this as its image as it's okay. But no, it's not okay. You know, what's okay is reading books, what it's okay is loving yourself, but loving, you know, other people, and you know what I mean. Ugh. It's going down the rabbit hole. There's a lot of things that's wrong with it. Sorry, I'm gonna get old man on you guys.
Just a little bit.
But yeah, I know Tom wants to wrap this up because it's getting pretty rowdy in a little bit because the Bills are playing Thursday Night Football, which is their only primetime game of the year.
The Bills, the only team to play in New York, are playing the New York Jets, who technically play in New Jersey.
In the Meadowlands, where Jimmy Hoffa's built, or his body's supposed to be.
All right.
Let those truckers roll, 10-4.
Right.
Whoop, whoop.
Hey, just before we wrap it up, it's been great to, you know, get this podcast going again. We weren't dead. We're still kicking. It's like there's this woman, I've seen her car. Tom wants me to wrap this up so bad. But there's this woman that's she's got this sticker that's
I just want less yelling at her podcast.
Is she a woman on
externally?
On mud flaps?
She drives like a Scion, and her like this like sticker says, "Cancer, you're messing with the wrong bitch." But like bitch with the I is like the cancer ribbon and pink. Ooh. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. But no, cancer will take anybody, but thankfully, our medical advancements have somehow allowed cancer to go away in your body. So I don't think it has anything to do with your will.
And that's why we need universal health care instead of relying on GoFundMe campaigns to help people with cancer.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. Here's another thing. Listen, I'm going to put this out here. If I die for some like thing, like let's say there's some shooting happens, and like, you know, I die saving a person, I don't want people to be like, he was the type that would give his shirt off his back. You know what? I would not give my shirt off.
I would never say that.
Because why? I'd be too cold. If I was wearing an extra shirt, I'm wearing an extra shirt.
You've got some valuable shirts. People would pay money on the internet for that Grateful Dead shirt.
Right. And that's why I paid money for it, because I like it. But I'm just saying, I'm not the type.
It has two skulls upside down. It makes no sense.
I said pay money on the internet, not that Tom would pay money for it.
That shirt's just confusing. Why is there a giant red lightning bolt through its skull? That's not what a brain looks like.
You know this logo. So I'm wearing a Steal Your Face, which is, it's called the Steely amongst the dead crowd. But it's just so, normally it's like this. So that's the Steely, but it's just kind of
Tom's just jealous because 75% of his shirts are shirts that he got from an annual party that he goes to.
No, I don't wear this when I get home from work. No, I have real shirts.
I have bins of shirts in my attic that I somehow think I'm going to lose weight for to fit in again. But I'm like, no, this is never happening.
Just donate them.
No, I'm going to sell them on Etsy, which is going off of Kyle's comment. Because I think I'm going to just build up my shirt collection and then just sell them on Etsy. Because vintage shirts are always fucking
see, that's the problem with Goodwill now. As you know, I won't say it, but I work for one of the most popular thrift stores in the world, dare I say.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And their problem is, Tom, I know you're trying to wrap this up.
Like
that's
5 minutes ago.
Tom, I know you're trying to wrap this up.
Let's just say that every 10 minutes.
I don't care. You're editing this one. I'm not. So this is your mess.
Go ahead. I'm broke. I have nothing. I have nothing to do this weekend. So that's one of the problems with Goodwill. I mean, the most popular thrift store in the world right now is that they're sending most of their vintage shirts to the clearance center or using them as rags, when I know that people on Etsy would pay top dollar for those wolf and moon shirts or cougar and moon.
Then why don't you just buy them and resell them?
Because I can't shop at my own store except for one.
You should text
one
me.
Weekend a month.
See, Kyle, because that's the way. You know how I always talk
Text
about...
Josh, he'll go buy them.
No,
but that's the problem is I don't control apparel. I'm the donations guy.
You're the guy that receives all the turds inside of boxes.
You know how I talk about side gigs? Vintage shirts go for buku bucks, especially like printed tees. So if you ever see certain like band shirts that are like from tours that are like they're recognizable bands.
Well, I found like a '90s Blink-182 shirt, and I was like, they're gonna
someone would buy that.
I know, right? Tom might even buy that one.
Nah, before my time.
Right. See,
if it was Fall Out Boy, if it was like a 2004 Fall Out Boy,
I don't know. They got really famous in 2004.
What about 2002? Was Fall Out Boy even there?
Yeah.
I always tell this story.
Fall Out Boy's even out with your girlfriend. One of the best albums ever. Switchblades and Infidelity?
When was Fall Out Boy formed? Like 2002 maybe? Or before that?
I think late 90s.
Really?
Early 2000.
To me, Fall Out Boy is just a bunch of boys who haven't grown up. Like, cut your hair already. Like, your music has always sucked and will suck.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Tom, I am 100%
serious.
Dozens of #1 songs.
Like what?
A handful of #1 albums.
Dozens.
Next episode is emo, the last subgenre of rock.
Dude, Tom, Fall Out Boy. Fall Out Boy is going to be one of those bands that's going to have to tour
that will be remembered
like
for decades.
Acts. No,
I'm telling you, in 50 years, Fall Out Boy still going to be going.
See, you're just saying this thing.
I'm not.
To piss me off.
They have an album coming out early January.
I hope.
I already got that pre-ordered.
Did they have a Christmas album yet?
They have not done a Christmas album to my knowledge, but they did a remix album with Kanye West.
So my ex-girlfriend in high school, I remember we went to the PXY Summer Jam, and one of the bands that were headlined was Switchfoot. And so, they're like, after the show, we're signing autographs. So there's this humongous line.
Aren't they like Christian emo?
Yeah, because they
a lot of emos.
We were meant to live for so much more.
Oh, that's them.
So there's this humongous line, and my girlfriend at the time was like, "Let's get in line, let's do it." I said, "Absolutely not." She's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Do you see this line? We're gonna be in here for hours." And she's like, starts crying. I'm like, I'm going to call you in 2 years and tell you, actually, I'm going to just say this. Switchfoot's not going to be anywhere in 2 fucking years. And I was right.
I remember...
Yeah, but Fall Out Boy's kicking 15 years.
I went to this hardcore band festival.
Josh is shaking his head because he doesn't accept the truth that Fall Out Boy is going to have a 50th year album. It's still together.
I don't think so.
Pete Wentz is going to roll out in a fucking wheelchair.
Dude, he'll still have a faux hawk.
The Beatles only lasted for 10 years.
Oh, Fall Out Boys got 5 more years on them. Suck it.
So the reason why certain bands are still kicking is because they produced good albums. It's not like...
Name me one bad Fall Out Boy album. Or song. You can't do it.
Everyone.
Can't do it.
They
never had a song called Everyone.
I'm putting them all in a category. Everyone.
Nope. They have timeless music that will never go away.
No, Tom.
We really need to debate this though, because you see, one of my topics was, are hipsters the end of Western civilization? And I have an article to go with that. I'll send you guys.
We should do that.
Because here's the reasoning. Here's a little teaser for that future episode. So it's like, when you think about it,
next month we're gonna go to a monthly podcast.
Like every subculture, since like, you know, like, what was the first like white people subculture, the beatniks.
I don't know. That's
since
like your time.
The beatniks of the 50s.
I know there were the punk kids.
The punk, yeah, but then you know, you have like emo,
grunge,
and then it went to like hipsters, and the hipsters just don't really stand for anything in particular. And it's like, what's going on?
They just like being ironic. They don't have good music. I mean, emo music was great. What is great about indie music?
Tom, you just say these things.
Indie was almost like a precursor to hipster.
Tom, there's a correlation why we went from pedophilia to Fall Out Boy. I'm just saying.
Hey, that one Newfound
We're
Glory
going
guy.
down in an earlier round.
I saw Newfound Glory after they fired the guy for pedophilia, for child porn.
Oh yeah, what was that one band?
Newfound Glory.
Was it Newfound Glory?
Yeah, it was one of my brother's favorite bands. I saw them after they fired that guy.
When that happened?
It was like just like, I don't know, like 2-3 years ago.
There was another from Owl City. That guy got in trouble for...
Well, that was the thing with the Warped Tour, where Warped Tour stopped letting bands under 18
warped
because they were having far too many incidents with underage girls and band members. Mm-hmm. So a couple years later, they tried to reconfigure how Warped Tour was going to work.
Well, the problem is,
and their thing was that no band member could be under the age of 18.
They just need an ID scanner before insertion. Like, insert your...
Well, isn't the age of consent
She is
different?
16.
Isn't the age of consent different in every state? Like Georgia, it's like fucking 14 or something.
I'm going to say... I shouldn't say 17. I was going to make a motto. 17, flick the bean. But no. It should be 18, you're in the clean. We'll keep it at that. 18, you're in the clean.
All right, can we on that note, can we wrap this up?
Yeah.
All right. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to Keeping It 1492. Hopefully we start doing this again more regularly. You can listen to us on our website or on the YouTube or on iTunes, which all the cool kids do. That's Josh's Phones making its normal appearance on the podcast this time at the very end. And you have a great day. Anything else? Anyone want to go for another 10 minutes? You can sign out. We good?
We should do an after show eventually, but no. Spectrum kind of sounds like Spectcum. No, you
It's basically what they are. You're trying to get your
off.
specs on to look at the bill because you can't believe it, and then you think you have cum in your eyes because you still can't believe it.
You got a convenience charge. What? How is this convenient?
All right. We're on that note. We're done.